Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Jackson. And in this space, we do life together, we grow together, and we heal together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel, and if you're joining me for the first time, hey girl, welcome to the potty. If you're a returning listener, hey girl, hey, welcome back. So first things first, I just want to say thank you all for the birthday wishes from the DMs, comments, all that. I truly do appreciate it. I celebrated my birthday on last week, so thank you all for the birthday wishes. And secondly, for those of you who like to watch on YouTube, I know these last two videos have been audio only. I was having some issues, but we're good now, so you'll continue to get video if you're watching it on YouTube. All right, so before we jump into today's topic, first, girl, let me tell you something. So the first thing I want to share is a song that I've been sharing with a few people that really just has been ministering to my heart. It's something I literally just came across this week, and it's by Mercy Culture Worship. I'm pretty sure that's the name. If not, I'll correct it in the video. But it's called Easy. And when I tell you, listening to that song, it really does just remind you of how God really does. He really do be going before us. He really does fight our battles, and we really do just have to release the things that seem so heavy, so big, so difficult, and really just allow him to be God, because what seems big to us, what seems difficult to us, what seems overwhelming to us, it really is easy for him, but we try to carry that weight. We try to carry that burden on our own. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that song with you all. I'll be sure to link it in the description box on YouTube and then in the show notes for any podcast platforms. So the second, girl, let me tell you something, is this is going to kind of be a free-flowing episode. And what I mean by that is I don't know what I'm going to call this episode as of yet. I'm hoping by the time we get to the end of it, we'll have some kind of direction of what we're going to call it. But I know what I'm going to talk about, but it's a couple of different things that have really just either been speaking to me, things that I'm working through, things that I've been in conversation with people about. And I'm like, let's talk about it. And so with that in mind, let's jump into today's topic. So for those of you who have been listening to this season from the beginning, then you know that the overarching theme for this season is really just pursuing purpose, really living a life that is poured out, and really just positioning ourselves to be the women who God created us to be. And as I have been thinking about that, I always say the message hits the messenger first, meaning as I'm sharing something to you, it's also challenging me. It's also helping me to correct certain thinking myself. And as I've just been thinking about the things that I want to pursue, the things that I want to do, I have found myself at times feeling like, God, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, if I can be honest. There have been times where I felt like I kept saying, God, I'm trying, but I don't see any fruit of what I'm trying to do. It seems like it's hard. It seems like it's difficult. It seems like I can't get past a certain point. And just finding myself frustrated in that. And something that I was thinking about that I want to share with you all today is I was honestly just having a vulnerable moment with God and just saying how I feel very lost in this season. And not lost in the sense of not knowing him, but lost in the sense of I don't know what to do. I don't know what's next. I don't know. I have all these ideas, right? It's like, I want to do this. I want to do that. I have all of these goals, visions, plans, all of those things. But there is this feeling of, I'm not sure what direction I'm supposed to go in, and it can feel like I'm trying, but it's not working, or it feels like I think I'm supposed to do this, but then I'm not sure, and just really having this tension. And I want to be honest about that, because I know that as you are pursuing purpose, as you are growing, as you are healing, there are going to be moments where you feel that tension. There are going to be moments where you feel as though you are wrestling with some things that you're not sure if you're supposed to pursue this. Am I supposed to do that? And you just find yourself kind of feeling conflicted and feeling like, God, I don't know what to do. And I know the frustration in that. I know that it can feel like you feel like you're lost and you feel like you've come to the end of yourself. And as I was talking to God about that, I realized that I do feel like I've come to the end point of how can I do this? How can I figure this out? How can I make sense of this? And I just felt this assurance of that's a good place to be in. And that was hard for me to accept. But as I started to think about it, it's a good place to be in because ultimately, when we are able to come to the end of ourselves, it positions God to be in a place where he can do what he's always been trying to do. And as I've been listening to that song Easy and just thinking about the things that I feel are too big, the things that I feel are too challenging or too difficult, it really is easy for God. And sometimes it requires you to get to a point where you've tried to figure everything out. You've tried to do everything on your own. You've tried to fix it. You've tried to have an answer for everything, yet you find yourself keep coming up short. You find yourself keep coming to a place where it feels like you're hitting a wall or a dead end and you can't figure it out. You can't make sense of it. And I want to challenge you with that because just as I'm in a space of feeling like I've hit the brick wall, I've hit the dead end, understanding that the thing about a dead end is that you can turn around and get back to the main road. And for some of us, it's time for us to turn around from the plans that we made. It's time for us to turn around from figuring it out, trying to figure it out, trying to make something work, trying to force something, trying to make something happen. That God's like, that's really not the path that I have for you right now. And not to say that it means never, but that's not necessarily the path that I have for you right now. But I'm still taking you somewhere. There's still a path that I have for you. There's still a journey that I desire to take you on, but I need you to relinquish that need to figure things out, try to make plans for yourself, try to figure out how can I do this? How can I do that? And allow me to give you the divine instruction that you actually need to get you on the path that doesn't lead to a dead end. So as you are pursuing different things in this season, whatever that may look like, you all know, or I hope you all know by now, I am very big on making sure that we understand that when I say pursuing things, I never want that to be limited to something that is tangible, is in the sense of starting a business, writing a book, starting YouTube, whatever it might be. When I say pursuing something, if that's pursuing your spiritual journey, if that's pursuing a health journey, if that is pursuing a healing journey, mental health, whatever it might be, even if it's just for you, that's important too. And I always want to make sure that I emphasize that because I do feel like we live in a world that really pushes entrepreneurship, that really pushes starting the new thing, doing the new thing, creating something. And those things are cool. They serve a purpose as well, but there's also purpose in you taking the time to do an inner work. There's also purpose in you working on yourself, healing yourself, bettering yourself, growing yourself, evolving yourself. Those aspects are important as well. And as you are doing those things, I know that sometimes you can feel like you hit roadblocks. You can feel like you get to a point where you are feeling stagnant. You don't feel like you're seeing the growth or the change that you may have when you first committed to doing it or when you first thought about it. But know that even as you hit those roadblocks, even as you get to a point where you feel like I am at the end of my resources, I am at the end of my ability to figure this out, I am at the end of my motivation, whatever it might be, don't allow that to be a place where you feel like this is my signal to quit. This is my sign to give up. This is my sign to throw in the towel. Maybe it's your sign to say, okay, let me step back. Let me take my hands off of things. Let me really realign myself with God and find out, God, am I even where I'm supposed to be right now? What is it that I'm trying to do, that I'm trying to make happen, that I've completely left you out of the picture? What is it that I'm trying to do that I have not included you in? What is it that I'm trying to do that I'm trying to come up with all the answers? I'm trying to figure everything out. And I haven't even consulted you about it. Take that time to step back and really look at that, because as frustrating as it can be, And as annoying and irritating as it can be to be in a space where you feel like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what's next, instead of allowing that to be a space where you feel like you are completely at the end of trying and you want to give up, you want to quit, you want to throw in the towel because it feels like it's just too much and you feel like you have literally done everything that you can and you feel like you have nothing to show for it, or it feels like it doesn't mean anything. Trust me when I say that it's okay to be in that space, but redirect your thinking, redirect your mindset, because instead of looking at, I don't know what else to do, I give up, I've done everything that I can, ask God, okay, God, help me to include you in this. Give me direction. Give me the instruction. Give me clarity. I've sought you for that before, but maybe I went ahead of you because it took too long, because I needed a response. I needed an answer, but the delay made me take matters into my own hands. And now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to take my hands off some things. So the next thing I want to talk about, I got to lay a little bit of some foundation so that we follow, so that we can understand how I got here. We're going to church a little bit, okay? So for those of you who do not know who Brenda Palmer is, I literally just found out about her, and baby, when I tell you sis does not come to play, I found out about her from Megan Ashley's In Totality podcast. And when I tell you, sis is a teacher and preacher and she funny, sis be yelling, okay? Let me preface it with this. She's a yeller, okay? She gets real passionate and she start yelling, but then she come back and she'll say something funny and it's like, okay, I can follow you. But I recently just found out about her and I was listening to a sermon, I believe it's called What Are You Serving? And she was reading from Exodus chapter 32. And to sum it up, I'll link the actual video in the description box and show notes. But to sum it up, pretty much she was talking about in Exodus 32, give you a little bit of context. So the Israelites have been delivered from the hand of Pharaoh. So they were slaves in Egypt. God has delivered them. He had Moses to be their leader. And she talked about how Moses went to the mountain to talk to God. And he had been gone for a while. So the people started complaining. They started getting frustrated. They started getting irritated. And so Aaron, who was left in charge of the people at that time, he tells them, all right, give me your jewelry. He melts the jewelry down and creates a golden calf for them to worship. They pretty much were complaining. It's like, we need a leader, essentially. And so he creates this golden calf for them to worship. And if you're a believer, you know they know better. And to also give further context, when I say God had been performing miracles for them, he had done several things that were literally only God kind of situations where he had delivered them, made provision for them. And this was their response. And so in her sermon, what she talked about is how Moses was with God for 6 weeks. And within that 6-week span, this was the people's response from him being gone for a total of 6 weeks. They created this whole golden calf to worship. They ultimately made an idol. And as I was listening to that thing, something that really checked my spirit is the weight reveals your idols. I'm going to say that one more time because I need that to like simmer. I need that little sit in for you a little bit. The weight reveals your idols. And what I mean by that is the amount of time that passes when you're waiting on God reveals to you what you turn to instead of him. So what you go to when he does not respond fast enough. What do you seek out or seek after when time has passed? Because a lot of times as believers specifically, it is so easy for us to disconnect ourselves from the disobedience, the shenanigans in the Bible, especially the people from the Old Testament, when in reality, it don't even take 6 weeks for God to be silent in our book. And we have gone and sought out all kinds of other things, people and resources to get an answer or to fulfill something that we should be seeking him in or seeking from him. And instead, we go to get that validation somewhere else. And that really checked my spirit because as I was thinking about this, I realized how easily it is to make ourselves an idol. How easy it is to feel like, okay, God, I asked you about this. I asked you to do this, but you're taking too long. So let me go ahead and figure it out myself. Let me go ahead and see how I can make 1 + 1 = 2. Because right now it's equaling 0 and I need to make something shake. Like, we are so quick to start going, doing, saying, moving, putting all these pieces together. And God's like, I ain't tell you to do that. When did I give you a verbal yes? Like, when did I give you confirmation? And I always, always, always go back to this. One of the things that I'm constantly reminded of was a sermon by Stephanie Gretzinger. And she said, whenever I feel like God is silent, whenever I feel like he's not speaking, I always say, go back to the last instruction that he gave me and ask, are we done here? Because he'll give you the next instruction when you follow the first one. And a lot of times we put ourselves, and when I say we, I'm including myself in this thing. A lot of times we put ourselves in positions where we will try to skip instructions and we feel like God isn't answering, or we feel like we've missed him in the middle of something, when in reality, it's not that you missed him, you didn't listen. Like, he was very clear on what he said initially, but you disregarded it because you didn't like it. You disregarded it because it made you uncomfortable. You disregarded it because it was something that you were not familiar with. And so a lot of times we feel like God is silent. We feel like he's not answering us. But the issue is it that he didn't answer you, or he gave you an answer and you ignored it because you ain't like it? Like, let's call a thing a thing. Let's be honest. This is a safe space. We've all been there, all done that. But that's really an honest question for us to ask ourselves, because we call ourselves trying to fix things. That is my struggle. That is my issue. I'm a fixer, a little Build-A-Bear over here. And we end up delaying our purpose, delaying our process, delaying the thing that we're actually supposed to be doing, because we've put so much focus on trying to fix it, trying to make something happen, trying to move, trying to do all of these things quickly, when there's a process to everything. And I know that it can be challenging when you feel like, I got to do something, I got to move, I have to, but you can end up making a whole idol out of yourself, because you put your trust in your capabilities. You put your trust in what you know to do, what you know to fix, how you know to make things change. And you end up leaving God completely out of the equation. It really made me think about, what is my mindset in the waiting period? What are the things that I go to? What are the things that I seek out? What is my response in the waiting period? And I want you to ask yourself that same question, because sometimes we have to look at, what are the things that I have put before God? What are the things that I have essentially made an idol that I didn't even realize, because I went and sought out a resource, I went and sought out counsel, whatever it might be. Because here's the real truth. For some of you, the idol you may have made could very well be who you seek wise counsel from. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to seek wise counsel. Hear me clearly on that. However, also, we can put ourselves in a position where we seek the voice of a person more than we seek God. So we will go to a person to get advice, to get encouragement, to seek prayer, whatever it might be. And we go to them like they're God. And we don't even talk to God or be in communication with God in the way that we are with a person. And we have to be mindful of those things. We have to be aware of the people, the things. What do you go to when you feel like God is taking too long? Who do you go to when you feel like God is taking too long? What is your plan B when it comes to God? What does the waiting period reveal to you about the idols that you've essentially created, that you end up putting before God when he's taken too long, when he doesn't respond right when you need him to, when you don't get the answer that you're looking for? What are the idols that you essentially start to turn to when it's been 6 weeks and you still are waiting? When it's been 6 years and you still are waiting? I think it's really important for us, as we grow in our relationship with God that we don't allow ourselves to feel so high and mighty that we have no sin, that we have no idols, that we have no issues, and that we're just out here pursuing purpose, obeying God, doing all the right things. We all have our stuff. Trust and believe that we all have our stuff. But it's also important to be willing to acknowledge it. It's also important to be able to acknowledge what is essentially hindering me from walking in my purpose. What is hindering me from growing in my relationship with God? What is hindering me from actually being the woman who I want to be and who I was ultimately created to be? What is hindering me? Because if you don't identify it, how can you change it? How can you do it differently if you don't identify it? And I believe that the more that we put ourselves in a position not to have this self-deprecating, beat up pity party session, but the more that we put ourselves in a position to be able to identify the areas of our heart that are hidden, that have not yet been exposed, the areas that have not yet been dealt with, or even the things that we don't even realize are red flags or things that we need to address, the more we're able to deal with that stuff, it helps us to ultimately be able to be who God created us to be. And with that, I feel like in any scenario, there's always two sides of the coin, right? So on one hand, we have those of us who may be trying to do, fix, go, do all the things. And on the other side of it, we have those who are continuously praying and seeking when God has told you to go. And you still sitting, you still staying. I was talking to one of the girls that I mentor recently, and it was a note in my life application study Bible that said that there's a time for prayer, but there's also a time for action. And sometimes we continue to pray and seek God when He's given us a clear go, He's given us a clear command on this is what you need to do. But instead of being obedient to whatever that command was, whatever we need to do, we just keep praying. We're praying for confirmation. We're praying for direction, whatever it might be. And it's been like real clear. I'm not telling you to stop praying, okay? Let me be clear on that. But some of us are using, I'm seeking direction, I'm praying, I'm waiting for God to tell me to go. You are using that as a crutch to remain the same, honey. You are using that as a crutch to stay in the same place that you were in 2021 because you have yet to actually put into action the prayers that you have been praying. You've yet to actually take hold of what the response has been to those prayers. And we can put ourselves in a position where we call ourselves waiting on God. Some of us, we feel like God waiting too long. And the other half of us, we're saying that we're waiting on God. And God's like, girl, I don't know what you waiting on me for. I don't know what you waiting on me for because I'm waiting on you. And y'all sitting here just staring at each other. You waiting on God and God is waiting on you. And we can find ourselves constantly praying about the same thing. We can find ourselves constantly saying, God, give me direction, give me instruction, give me clarity. And I feel like sometimes God is like, what more do you want? Like, what exactly is it that you're looking for? I told you what to do. You're scared. And I said this in the first episode of this season. For some of you, it's not that you don't know what to do. You're simply scared to start. It's very easy to be like, well, I don't know where to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know what it's going to look like. All those things. Honey, call a thing a thing. You're scared. You're scared of what people's responses are going to be. You're scared of what the outcome is going to be. You're scared of what it's going to look like. You're scared if it's going to fail. You're scared about if it's going to look crazy. You're scared if you're going to look crazy. Trust me when I say I get that, I understand it. But there comes a point where you have to acknowledge that you're really not waiting on God. You're really not waiting on more direction, more clarity, more instruction. You have everything that you need. And as you utilize what you have, you will see how God will position you and help you with what He's already placed on the inside of you. A lot of times we are asking God for more when in reality, we don't steward what we already have well. is not that you need more, is that you need to utilize what you already have. Some of us are missing it and missing out on fully being in our purpose because we think we need more to achieve it, when in reality, you have all that you need to start. You haven't even started, yet you're asking for more. Start with what you have. God is never going to give you an instruction to do something and position you to lack to actually start it. That's not how he rolls. What we miss, however, is we feel like we're lacking something because we're only viewing it in, well, this is what I'm capable of doing, and based off of my capabilities, this ain't gonna happen. But what is it that he's called you to? And are you including him in it so that he can do what you can't do? We have to keep that in mind, because there's so much that we can miss by trying to do things in our own strength, in our own ability. And we feel like we are lacking and we feel like we don't have enough. Yeah, you're lacking because you left God out of it. Of course you're going to be lacking. You left the key ingredient out for it to be successful. And so that's something that I'm having to remind myself of too. I don't need more. I need to utilize and steward what I have now well, because if I don't steward the minimum well, how am I going to steward the more well? How am I going to steward more better when I don't take care of the bare minimum? When I don't take care of what I have, or if I don't even utilize what I have? So now I'm going to have more to do nothing. Are we really trying to make that make sense? Because it don't. It don't. Okay. Like, you really have to start thinking about it. How am I going to steward more well when I don't steward what he's given me? I want to show God, whatever you give me, I'm going to use it. And I'm not just going to use it, but I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. If you decide to expand it, if you decide to expand my territory, okay, I can manage it better, or I can manage it well, because I've already managed what you gave me. So a little bit more, I can adjust, I can pivot, I can work with this. But if I'm not managing well the little that you've given me, why should I expect you to give me? What am I going to do with the more? What am I going to do with it? And so I still don't know what I'm going to name this episode. However, these are just some thoughts that I have been carrying throughout this last week, 2 weeks, some things that have really just been resonating with me. And I'm like, let's bring this to the podcast. I don't know what I'll call this, but by the time the episode goes up, obviously we've come up with something. But I just want to challenge your thinking in these particular areas, because these are areas that my thinking is being challenged in as well. And I really want us to be women who, as we are pursuing purpose, that we're pursuing God, that it's not separate from one another, that it's not a thing of we are chasing after these things that we think will make us successful, that we think will make us happy or fulfilled, but we're actually pursuing the thing that is in us, that we were created for, that we're supposed to be doing, that we're supposed to be following. And I want to make sure that as we are having these conversations about purpose, which is necessary and important, that we're also taking the time to really ask God, reveal my heart in the pursuit. Reveal my heart in the areas of waiting. Reveal my heart in the areas of obedience, which is a tough one and a challenging one in a lot of ways. But reveal my heart and show me the areas where I may be falling short. Show me the areas where I may be missing the mark so that I can correct it. This isn't about being condemned and beat up because you missed the mark, you got it wrong, you made a mistake. That's not what this is about. Let me know so I can correct it. If I am out of order, if I am out of alignment, let me know. God, reveal that to me so that I can correct it, because I don't want to continue life remaining the same and completely leaving God out of it or missing him in my pursuit of purpose. That does not even sound right. And I don't want that for you either. So I hope that this was an encouragement to you, and share it with a friend. You never know who may need to hear the same words of encouragement and advice and conviction as well, because some of these things convicted me too. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope you all have an amazing week. And until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Bye. Thank you for tuning into a Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend. Also, I'd love to connect with you.
You can follow me on Instagram at @AngelSharon_ and at A Change of Heart Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Angel Sharon. Have an amazing week, and until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.